I can't do this. Those 4 words shattered my entire world in front of 300 people. Trevor's hand dropped mine like I was on fire, and the microphone caught every word. Every single one. Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. Whether you're new to the channel or you've been riding this emotional roller coaster with us from the beginning. Before we dive into this story, please, I'm begging you, hit that subscribe button right now. You're going to want to see how this ends. Trust me. Now, where was I? Oh right, the worst moment of my life. I stood there in my white dress, the one I'd spent 8 months dreaming about, the one that cost more than my car, and I watched my groom, Trevor Sutton, step backward. Away from me. At the altar. In front of everyone I'd ever known. The bouquet trembled in my hands. White roses and baby's breath. I'd chosen them because Trevor said they reminded him of innocence and new beginnings. What a joke. My brain couldn't process what was happening. The officiant's mouth hung open. My maid of honor, Paige, gasped so loud it echoed off the cathedral ceiling. Someone's grandmother in the 3rd row actually screamed. But Trevor just stood there, straightening his tie like he was about to deliver a business presentation instead of destroying a human being. I want you to imagine this for a second. Really picture it. You're wearing the dress you spent months choosing. Your hair took 4 hours this morning. Your hands won't stop shaking because you're so nervous and excited and terrified all at once. You're standing in front of everyone who matters to you, about to promise forever to someone. And he looks at you like you're a stranger. My voice came out small, broken. Naomi, what are you doing? Trevor ran his hand through his perfectly styled hair and laughed. Actually laughed. It wasn't nervous or apologetic. It was cold. Rehearsed. I'm doing us both a favor, he said. The church went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop on that marble floor. A favor? The words barely made it past my lips. Trevor glanced at the crowd like he was making sure everyone was paying attention. This moment was a performance to him. He wanted an audience. Naomi, you're a sweet girl. You really are. But I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I just can't go through with it. You were always just... He paused, and I swear he smiled. Not enough. Not enough. Those 2 words hit me harder than any slap could have. They confirmed every insecure thought I'd ever had about myself. Every moment I'd felt invisible or ordinary or forgettable, suddenly validated in front of 300 witnesses. My mother started crying. Loud, ugly sobs that made people turn around to stare at her instead of me. My father stood up from the front pew, his face turning that dangerous shade of red that meant his blood pressure was spiking. But I just stood there. Frozen. Humiliated. Shaking. Trevor adjusted his cufflinks, actually took a moment to adjust his cufflinks, and then turned toward the aisle. He walked. Just walked away. His groomsmen stood there looking at each other, confused, mortified. His best friend, Kyle, mouthed the word sorry to me before following Trevor out. The whispers started immediately. Did that really just happen? Oh my God, that poor girl. I knew he was too good for her. Can you believe this? This is insane. Paige grabbed my arm. Naomi, come on, let's get you out of here. But I couldn't move. My legs had turned to concrete. I stared at those church doors, the ones Trevor had just walked through, the ones we were supposed to walk back through together as husband and wife. Instead, I was standing here alone, holding flowers that suddenly felt like evidence of my stupidity. Let me take you back 8 months. That's when I met Trevor Sutton. I was working late at my marketing coordinator job, stopping by the coffee shop on 5th Street that stays open until midnight. I was exhausted, wearing my work clothes, hair in a messy bun, probably looking half dead. Trevor was there. Suit and tie, even at 11 p.m., looking like he stepped out of a magazine. He smiled at me in line, complimented my laptop case of all things, and we started talking. He seemed perfect, attentive, funny, successful. He worked in finance, or so he said. He texted me good morning every single day. He brought me soup when I was sick. He met my parents and charmed my mother so completely that she started planning our wedding before he even proposed. Looking back now, it all seemed too easy. Too scripted. But I was so desperate to be chosen, to be enough for someone, that I ignored every single red flag. The proposal happened at a restaurant downtown, in front of a crowd, which should have been my first clue. Trevor loved an audience. He got down on one knee, gave this whole speech about finding his soul woman, and I said yes before he even finished asking. Everyone clapped. Strangers congratulated us. I felt like the luckiest woman alive. What an idiot I was. Back in the church, reality crashed down on me like a wave. My father was now in the aisle, shouting toward the doors Trevor had disappeared through. My mother couldn't breathe between sobs. Guests were pulling out their phones. I could see it already, the videos, the posts, the screenshots. Hashtag worst wedding ever. Paige squeezed my hand. Talk to me, Naomi. Say something. But what was there to say? That I should have seen this coming? That some part of me always knew I wasn't special enough to keep someone like Trevor interested? That standing here in this ridiculously expensive dress, I felt like the universe's personal joke? The officiant, Reverend Patterson, cleared his throat awkwardly. Perhaps we should, give the family some privacy. Privacy. In a room full of 300 people with smartphones. Sure. I finally found my voice, and I hated how small it sounded. Everyone can go home.
Sorry.
Naomi, no, Paige said. Don't do that. Don't disappear right now. What else am I supposed to do? Stand here and take questions? Pose for pictures? My father was coming back up the aisle now, his face still dangerously red. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to find him and kill him. Dad, don't. He humiliated you. In front of everyone. In the house of God. My mother joined him, mascara running down her face in black rivers. Baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Why are you sorry, Mom? You didn't leave me at the altar. But I pushed you to marry him. I thought he was good for you. I thought he was stable and successful, and I was wrong. I was so wrong. The crowd was starting to disperse now, people shuffling out in uncomfortable silence, whispering to each other, probably already texting their friends about the drama they just witnessed. I could see my Aunt Ruth shaking her head. Cousin Bella filming on her phone until her mother slapped it out of her hand. This was my life now. The girl who got dumped at her own wedding. The story people would tell at dinner parties. Remember Naomi Reed? Yeah, her fiancé walked out mid-vow. Can you even imagine? Paige was still holding my hand, but I pulled away. I need air. I'll come with you. No, just give me a minute, please. I walked down the altar steps carefully because the last thing I needed was to trip and fall in front of whoever was still watching. My dress was so heavy. All those layers of tulle and lace, they felt like chains now. I'd felt like a princess this morning. Now I felt like a fool in a costume. I made it to the side door of the church. The one that led to the small garden area where we were supposed to take pictures. The sunset photo shoot with my husband. Instead, I stumbled outside alone, gasping for air that wouldn't seem to fill my lungs. The garden was empty. Quiet. I could still hear the chaos inside, voices overlapping, my father's angry shouts, my mother's crying. But out here, for just a second, I could pretend this wasn't happening. I looked down at my hand. The engagement ring Trevor had given me sparkled in the early evening light. 2 carats, princess cut, set in platinum. He'd made such a show of choosing it, bringing me to the jeweler, asking my opinion on every detail. All of it was a lie. I twisted the ring off my finger and held it in my palm. It felt heavier than it should have. Or maybe that was just the weight of 8 months of my life, wasted on someone who was performing the whole time. Not enough. His words kept replaying in my head like a song I couldn't turn off. You were always just not enough. Tears finally came, hot and angry and heartbroken all at once. I let them fall because there was no one here to see, no one to perform for, no one to be strong in front of. Just me and this stupid dress and the ruins of the future I'd planned. Have you ever had a moment where your entire life just shatters? Where everything you thought was solid turns out to be glass? Drop a comment below and tell me about it. Because right now, I need to know I'm not the only one who's ever felt this completely destroyed. I don't know how long I stood there in that garden. Could have been 5 minutes. Could have been 30. Time felt weird, stretchy, and compressed all at once. Then I heard it. At first, I thought I was imagining things. A low rumble in the distance. Engines. Multiple engines. Getting closer. I turned toward the street, wiping tears from my face with the back of my hand. The rumble got louder. And louder. Until it wasn't just sound anymore, it was feeling. The kind of bass you feel in your chest. Car after car after car turned onto the street in front of the church. Black Teslas. Identical. Moving in perfect formation like some kind of military convoy. I stepped closer to the garden gate, my heart pounding for entirely different reasons now. One Tesla parked. Then another. Then 10. Then 20. They kept coming, lining up with mathematical precision on both sides of the street, blocking traffic, commanding attention. People inside the church were coming back out now, drawn by the noise. I could hear confused voices behind me. What is that? What's happening? Is that a funeral procession? The lead Tesla, parked directly in front of the church entrance, had tinted windows so dark I couldn't see inside. Then the driver's door opened, and my entire world, already shattered, exploded into a million more pieces. Because stepping out of that car, in an all-black suit that probably cost more than my childhood home, was a man I never thought I'd see again. Damon Blackwell. If you're not subscribed yet, do it right now because what happens next is going to change absolutely everything. Hit that like button, share this with someone who loves a crazy twist, and stay right here. We're just getting started. Damon Blackwell looked exactly the same and completely different all at once. 5 years had sharpened him. His jaw was harder, his eyes colder, his presence more commanding. He moved like a man who owned everything he looked at, and right now, he was looking directly at me. Behind him, car doors opened in synchronized perfection. Men in black suits emerged from every vehicle. Security, I realized. Private security. The kind that cost more per hour than I made in a week. The church steps were packed now with confused guests, my family, Trevor's abandoned groomsmen. Everyone staring at this impossible spectacle unfolding in front of a house of God. Damon walked toward the church entrance with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. His security detail flanked him, 2 men on each side, earpieces in, faces blank. My father pushed through the crowd on the steps. "Who the hell are you?" Damon didn't even glance at him. His eyes were fixed on the church doors like he could see through them. Like he could see me hiding in the garden on the other side. "I'm here for Naomi Reed," Damon said, and his voice carried across the entire street. Deep, controlled, absolute. My mother grabbed my father's arm. "Gordon, don't." But my father was still riding the rage from Trevor's abandonment. "You need to leave. This is a private event." That's when Damon finally looked at him. Really looked at him. And I saw my father actually take a step backward. "This wedding is over," Damon said. "It should have never happened in the first place." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone behind me whispered, "Oh my God, who is this guy?" Paige appeared at my elbow in the garden, her eyes wide. "Naomi, is that Damon Blackwell? As in, the Damon Blackwell? Blackwell Industries Damon Blackwell?" I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up completely. "You know him." Paige's voice went up an octave. Before I could answer, Damon's head turned. Slowly, deliberately, until he was looking directly at me through the garden gate. Our eyes met across 50 feet of chaos and confusion, and I felt it. That same electric shock I'd felt 5 years ago. The one I'd spent half a decade trying to forget. He started walking toward me. The crowd parted like he was Moses and they were the Red Sea. No one dared get in his way. My father tried to follow, but one of Damon's security guys stepped in front of him, polite but immovable. Damon reached the garden gate and stopped. Up close, I could see details I'd missed from a distance. The small scar above his left eyebrow that he'd gotten in a car accident when he was 19. The silver watch on his wrist that cost more than a house. the way his jaw clenched like he was holding back words that wanted to explode out of him. "Naomi," he said quietly. "Just my name." But the way he said it felt like a complete sentence. "What are you doing here?" My voice shook. "Stopping you from making the biggest mistake of your life." I laughed, and it came out bitter and broken. Too late. The mistake already happened. Did you miss the part where I got humiliated in front of 300 people? Trevor Sutton is a coward and a liar. His eyes never left mine. You deserve better. And you flew here with 200 cars to tell me that? Something flickered across his face. Not quite a smile. Not quite pain. Something in between. "Actually, I came to tell you something else." He turned back toward the crowd, toward my family, toward all those people with their phones out recording every second of this insanity. Then Damon Blackwell did something I never could have predicted. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Naomi Reed belongs with me. She always has." The crowd exploded. Actual chaos. People shouting questions, my mother looking like she might faint, my father trying to push past security, Paige grabbing my arm so hard I'd probably have bruises tomorrow. But all I could do was stare at Damon. "What did you just say?" "You heard me. You can't just show up after 5 years and say something like that." I was shaking now, but not from cold. From rage. From confusion. From feelings I'd buried so deep I thought they were dead. "Where were you, Damon? Where the hell were you when I needed you?" His jaw tightened. "I looked for you. I was right here. Same city, same job, same life." "No, you weren't." He pulled something from his inside jacket pocket. An envelope, yellowed with age. "You left. You took money from my mother and disappeared." This letter explained everything. My blood went cold. "What letter?" He handed it to me, and with shaking fingers, I opened it. The handwriting was neat, feminine, careful. But it wasn't mine. The words blurred as I read them. "Damon, thank you for everything, but I think we both know this was never going to work. Your mother was right. I'm not cut out for your world. The money will help me start over somewhere new. Please don't contact me again. Naomi." I never wrote this, I whispered. "What?" "I never wrote this." I shoved the letter back at him. "Your mother came to me, yes. She offered me money, yes. But I didn't take it, Damon. I left because she made me believe I was ruining your life. That you were too kind to break up with me yourself, so she had to do it for you." His face went white. "She told me you cashed a check for $50,000. I never saw a check. I left because I thought you wanted me gone." The air between us crackled with 5 years of misunderstanding, manipulation, and loss. Someone in the crowd yelled, "What is happening right now?" Good question. Does anyone watching have any idea? Because I'm living it and I still can't process it. Leave a comment, hit that like button, let me know if your life has ever gone this completely sideways in the span of 30 minutes. Damon stepped closer, his voice dropping so only I could hear. "We were both lied to. By your mother." "Yes. So you thought I abandoned you for money, and I thought you walked out on me at the altar today because Trevor Sutton was never who he said he was." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" Damon pulled out his phone, tapped something, and showed me the screen. It was a bank transaction. $500,000 wired to Trevor Sutton from a corporate account I didn't recognize. The date was 9 months ago, right before I met Trevor. I don't understand. He was paid to romance you, to propose to you, and to leave you at the altar in the most public, humiliating way possible. The garden tilted. I grabbed the gate to steady myself. Why would someone do that? Revenge, Damon said darkly. Against me. This doesn't make sense. I'm nobody. I'm a marketing coordinator who lives in a 1-bedroom apartment and drives a 10-year-old Honda. Why would anyone care enough about me to orchestrate this? Because you're not nobody to me. His voice was rough now, raw. You never were. Behind us, I heard someone trying to push through the security line. Trevor. I'd recognize his voice anywhere. Get out of my way. That's my fiancé. Damon's expression went arctic. He turned slowly, and I followed his gaze. Trevor was on the church steps, his jacket off now, tie loosened, looking significantly less put together than when he'd walked out on me 20 minutes ago. He was red-faced and sweating. "She's not your anything," Damon said, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Who the hell do you think you are, showing up here with this circus?" One of Damon's security guys walked forward and handed Trevor a manila envelope. "What's this?" Trevor grabbed it. "Legal documentation," Damon said calmly. "A restraining order preventing you from coming within 500 feet of Naomi. And a contract violation lawsuit for the $500,000 you were paid to destroy her life." Trevor's face went from red to gray in about 2 seconds. "I don't know what you're talking about." Damon smiled, and it was the most dangerous expression I'd ever seen on a human face. "I have recordings, financial statements, text message logs, and 3 witnesses willing to testify that you conspired with Cecily Hawthorne to humiliate Naomi Reed in exchange for payment. So you can either take the restraining order and disappear quietly, or I can have my lawyers bury you so deep you'll never see daylight again." The crowd was dead silent now. Everyone watching this showdown like it was a movie. Trevor looked at me, and for just a second, I saw something like regret cross his face. "Naomi, don't," I said. My voice was steady now, stronger. "Just don't." He looked down at the envelope in his hands, then back up at Damon's security wall, then at the 200 Teslas lining the street like an invading army. Then he turned and walked away for the second time that day. But this time, I didn't feel destroyed. I felt confused, angry, manipulated, but not destroyed. Damon turned back to me, and the cold mask dropped. Underneath, I saw the man I'd fallen in love with 5 years ago. Vulnerable, intense, desperate. "Come with me," he said quietly. "Where?" "Somewhere we can talk. Away from all of this. I'll explain everything, Naomi. Every missing piece. But we need to leave now." "Why now?" "Because Cecily Hawthorne is dangerous. And if she's willing to go this far to hurt you, she's not going to stop just because her plan failed." My head was spinning. 5 minutes ago, I was the abandoned bride hiding in a garden. Now I was apparently the target of some billionaire revenge plot I didn't understand. "I need to talk to my parents. I'll have someone explain things to them. But Naomi, please." His hand extended toward me. "Trust me one more time." I looked at his hand. Strong, scarred on the knuckles from a boxing habit I remembered. Steady where mine were shaking. "Behind me," Paige whispered. "If you don't go with him, I will." That almost made me laugh. I looked up at Damon's face. Really looked. Searched for lies, for manipulation, for whatever game this was. But all I saw was the truth I'd seen 5 years ago. This man, for better or worse, was incapable of lying to me. So I did the craziest thing I'd done all day. I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm and certain, and suddenly I could breathe again. "We need to go," he said. He led me through the garden gate, past my stunned parents, my open-mouthed friends, the recording phones and shocked faces, toward that lead Tesla with the tinted windows. His driver opened the back door. Damon gestured for me to get in first. I gathered up my massive wedding dress, all those stupid layers of tulle, and climbed into the most expensive car I'd ever been in. Leather seats that felt like butter. Dashboard that looked like a spaceship. Silence so complete it felt like we'd entered another dimension. Damon slid in beside me. The door closed. The driver got in front, and without a word, the car began to move. I watched through the window as the church, my family, the wreckage of my wedding day, all of it faded into the distance. "What have I just done?" I whispered. Damon looked at me, and something in his expression made my heart skip. "You just gave me a chance to fix the worst mistake I ever made." "What mistake?" "Letting you go 5 years ago." The car picked up speed, merging onto the highway. Behind us, I could see the other Teslas following in formation. An army. A statement. A promise. I want to know something before you share this video. Have you ever gotten into a car with someone and known, absolutely known, that nothing would ever be the same again? Tell me in the comments. And if you're invested in this story, if you need to know what happens next, smash that subscribe button because this is only the beginning. I turned to Damon, my wedding dress taking up half the back seat, my makeup probably destroyed, my life in complete shambles. Where are we going? He met my eyes, and the intensity there nearly stopped my heart. Somewhere I should have taken you 5 years ago. The city lights blurred past the windows. My phone was buzzing in the small clutch I'd somehow managed to hold on to through all the chaos. Probably my mother. Probably Paige. Probably everyone I knew losing their minds. But I didn't look at it. Because Damon's hand was still holding mine, and I was watching his face, trying to reconcile the boy I'd loved with the billionaire sitting next to me in a car that cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime. You said someone paid Trevor to destroy me, I said quietly. Yes. This Cecily person. Cecily Hawthorne. CEO of Hawthorne Tech. My ex-fiancé. The word fiancé hit different than I expected. You were engaged. For about 6 months. 3 years ago. It was a business arrangement more than anything else. Our families, our companies, it made sense on paper. But not in reality. He looked at me, and something painful flickered across his face. Not after I'd already met you. The car took an exit I didn't recognize. We were leaving Charleston, heading toward the coast. So she's doing this because you broke up with her? She's doing this because I told her I couldn't marry her when I was still in love with someone else. And then she spent 3 years trying to figure out who that someone was. She found me 8 months ago. Right around the time Trevor Sutton magically appeared in your life at a coffee shop at 11 p.m. My stomach turned. That wasn't a coincidence. Nothing about Trevor was a coincidence. Damon's voice was tight with controlled rage. Every conversation, every date, every moment was designed to make you fall for him so the betrayal would hurt more. It worked, I whispered. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? You didn't do this. I might as well have. He turned to face me fully now. If I had fought harder 5 years ago, if I hadn't believed that letter, if I had trusted what I knew in my gut instead of what my mother convinced me was true, none of this would have happened. We can't change the past. No. But maybe we can fix the future. The car slowed, turning onto a private road I'd never seen before. Trees lined both sides, old oaks with Spanish moss hanging like curtains. The sun was setting now, painting everything gold and purple. Damon, where are we? Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. The car rounded a curve, and suddenly there it was. A house. No, not a house. An estate. Modern glass and steel rising out of the coastal landscape like something from an architecture magazine. Ocean view, private beach, security gates that opened automatically as we approached. You live here. Sometimes. When I need to think. When I need to disappear. The Tesla stopped in front of the main entrance. The driver got out and opened my door. I didn't move. Damon, I need you to be completely honest with me right now. Always. Why did you really come today? To my wedding? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said the words that changed everything. Because I've spent 5 years trying to forget you, and I finally realized I never would. So when I found out what Trevor was planning, when I discovered Cecily's whole sick game, I had a choice. I could let it happen and watch you get destroyed from a distance. Or I could show up and fight for you the way I should have fought 5 years ago. A tear slid down my cheek. I didn't even feel it fall. I chose to fight, he said softly. Then he got out of the car and walked around to my side. Extended his hand again. This time when I took it, it felt different. Like a decision instead of an escape. He helped me out of the car, and my ridiculous wedding dress caught on the doorframe. We both reached for it at the same time, and suddenly we were close. Closer than we'd been in 5 years. I could smell his cologne. Cedar and something darker. The same one he wore when we were together. You kept the same cologne, I said without thinking. I kept a lot of things. Like what? He didn't answer. Just led me toward the house. The front door opened before we reached it. A woman in her 50s, professional, kind-faced, nodded at Damon. Sir, I've prepared the East Wing as you requested. Thank you, Miranda. This is Naomi Reed. She'll be staying with us. Of course. Miss Reed, welcome. Can I get you anything? Tea. Water. Something stronger? I laughed, and it came out slightly hysterical. Do you have anything strong enough for this day? She smiled warmly. I'll see what I can find. We stepped inside, and I stopped breathing. The house was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than my annual salary. Art on the walls that looked like it belonged in museums. But that's not what made me stop breathing. On the far wall, above a fireplace that could fit a small car, was a painting I recognized immediately. It was the painting from 5 years ago. The one Damon had bought the day we met. An abstract piece in blues and grays that the artist titled, Searching. I'd been working at the gallery that day, bored out of my mind during the slow afternoon shift. Damon had walked in like a storm, all intensity and purpose, and gone directly to that painting. We'd started talking. About art. About meaning. About loneliness and ambition, and all the things you're not supposed to discuss with strangers. 3 hours later, he'd bought the painting for $60,000. And asked me to dinner. You kept it, I whispered. Damon came to stand beside me, both of us looking up at the canvas. I told you, I kept a lot of things. Why? Because letting go of you was the worst thing I've ever done, and I needed reminders. To make sure I never made that mistake again. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'm seriously begging you now. This story is about to go places you can't even imagine. Hit that button, share this with someone who needs to see it, and stay with me. I turned to face him, and all the questions I'd carried for 5 years came pouring out. Why didn't you look harder? Why didn't you find me? I was right there, Damon, working at the same gallery for another year before I switched jobs. Living in the same apartment. You have all this money, all these resources. Why didn't you look? His face crumpled with something that looked like pain. I did look. For 6 months I had investigators, private detectives, everyone searching. They found a paper trail. Bank accounts opened in your name in California. An address in San Francisco. Phone records showing you'd moved and changed your number. I've never been to California in my life. I know that now. But 5 years ago, all the evidence said you'd taken the money and started over. My mother showed me everything. Documents, signatures, receipts. It all looked real. She forged it. Yes. The rage that went through me was white-hot and dizzying. Your mother destroyed us. Yes, he said quietly. She did. Where is she now? Still trying to run my life. Still convinced she knows what's best for me. Still unapologetic about what she did. And you still talk to her? She's my mother. His voice was strained. I can't just cut her out completely. Watch me, I said. When I find out who helped her, when I figure out everyone who was involved in making me believe I wasn't good enough for you, I'm cutting them out so fast they'll get whiplash. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect maybe. Or pride. There's the fire I remember. I never lost it. I just buried it under 8 months of fake relationship and people-pleasing and trying to be enough for someone who was literally paid not to love me. You were always enough, Naomi. Then why does everyone keep leaving? The question came out broken, and I hated myself for it. For showing vulnerability. For being weak. But Damon stepped closer, and his hand came up to my face, brushing away tears I didn't realize were falling. I'm not leaving, he said. Not again. Not ever. Even if you tell me to go. Even if you hate me for what happened. I'm staying close enough to protect you until this is over. Until what's over. Until Cecily Hawthorne pays for what she did. Until Trevor Sutton understands there are consequences for his actions. Until everyone who tried to destroy you realizes they made a very serious mistake. The intensity in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it made me feel safe for the first time all day. Miranda returned with a glass of wine that looked expensive and a gentle smile. Your room is ready whenever you need it, Miss Reed. I've laid out some comfortable clothes as well. I estimated your size, but if anything doesn't fit, just let me know. Thank you, I managed. She disappeared quietly, and I was alone with Damon again. I should call my parents, I said. They're probably losing their minds. I'll have someone handle it. Right now, you need to rest. I don't want to rest. I want answers. He looked at me for a long moment. Then come with me. He led me through the house, past rooms I barely registered, down a hallway lined with photographs I didn't have time to examine, to a door at the end that he opened with a key from his pocket. Inside was an office. Massive desk, computer screens, filing cabinets, but also something else. An entire wall covered in papers, photographs, strings connecting them like a conspiracy theorist's dream. And in the center of it all was my face. Pictures of me from the last 5 years. At work, at the grocery store, having coffee with Paige. Recent photos. Candid shots I never knew were being taken. You've been watching me, I whispered. Protecting you, he corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Because protection means I stayed away even though it killed me. It means I made sure you were safe without interfering in your life. It means when Trevor Sutton showed up, I had him investigated within 24 hours and discovered exactly who sent him. My eyes scanned the wall. There were documents about Trevor, about Cecily, about money transfers and shell companies and things I didn't understand. But there was something else too. A folder on the desk labeled Naomi Reed, Confidential, in bold red letters. And sticking out of it was a document with a name I'd never seen before. Harrison Carlisle. What is this? I reached for the folder. Damon's hand stopped mine. Not yet, he said quietly. Why not? Because once you know everything, once all the pieces fall into place, there's no going back. Your life will never be simple again. My life stopped being simple the second Trevor walked out on me. I pulled the folder toward me. Whatever's in here, I can handle it. Damon looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Then he let go. I opened the folder, and everything I thought I knew about myself shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The first document was a birth certificate. My birth certificate. But the names were wrong. Mother, Patricia and Carlisle. Deceased. Father, Harrison James Carlisle. Deceased. Child, Naomi Patricia Carlisle. I read it 3 times before the words started making sense, and even then, they didn't make sense at all. This has to be a mistake, I said. My parents are Gordon and Susan Reed. I've seen my birth certificate. It doesn't say this. That birth certificate was filed when Gordon and Patricia Reed adopted you, Damon said quietly. This is your original one. From before. Adopted. The word hit me like a physical blow. I'm adopted? Yes. My hands were shaking so badly the paper rattled. Since when? Since you were 6 months old. Your biological mother, Patricia Carlisle, died in childbirth. Harrison Carlisle was your father. He arranged for Gordon Reed, his college roommate and closest friend, to raise you as his own. Why wouldn't they tell me? Harrison asked them not to. Not until you were old enough to understand. I'm 28 years old. That's plenty old enough. He wanted to tell you himself. But he died before he got the chance. I grabbed the next document. A obituary from 6 years ago. Harrison Carlisle, 52, tech entrepreneur and founder of Carlisle Technologies, passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. Survived by his daughter. It didn't list my name. Just daughter. The article went on about his innovations, his contributions to the industry, his philanthropy. Billions of dollars. Companies I'd heard of but never connected to anything personal. A legacy that spanned decades. And he was my father. I sat down hard in the nearest chair because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Gordon Reed isn't my biological father. He's your father in every way that matters, Damon said. He raised you, loved you, protected you. Biology doesn't change that. But he lied to me. My voice cracked. My whole life is a lie. It's not a lie. It's a truth they were trying to protect you from until the right time. And when was the right time going to be, Damon? When I was 40, 50. On my deathbed. He didn't answer. I grabbed more papers from the folder. Legal documents, trust funds, stock portfolios, company holdings, numbers that made my head spin. Then I found it. The document that made everything click into place. Last will and testament of Harrison James Carlisle. I skimmed through the legal language until I found the relevant section. To my daughter, Naomi Patricia Carlisle, on the event of her 30th birthday, I bequeath the entirety of my estate, including all assets, properties, stock holdings, and controlling interest in Carlisle Technologies, valued at approximately $3 billion. The paper slipped from my fingers. $3 billion. I was going to inherit $3 billion. When's your birthday, Naomi? Damon asked quietly. My throat was so tight I could barely speak. Next week. May 15th. 7 days from now, you become one of the richest women in America. The room was spinning. I put my head between my knees and tried to breathe. This isn't real. This can't be real. It's real. I looked up at him, and suddenly every interaction we'd ever had took on a different color. You knew. You've known this whole time. Yes. How long? I found out about 2 years ago. I was going through some of Harrison's old files after I acquired one of his smaller companies, and I found documents referencing a daughter. It took me another 6 months to confirm it was you. 2 years. My voice was hollow. You've known for 2 years that I'm a secret heiress and you never thought to tell me? I was honoring Harrison's wishes. Harrison is dead. He doesn't get wishes anymore. Damon flinched like I'd slapped him. I stood up, backed away from the desk, away from him, away from all of this insanity. Is that why you came today? Is that why you showed up with your army of cars and your dramatic rescue? Because I'm about to inherit billions of dollars? No. Because it feels like a pretty big coincidence, Damon. You disappear for 5 years, then magically reappear 1 week before I come into an enormous inheritance. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Explain it to me like I'm a child, because clearly I don't understand anything about my own life. His jaw clenched. I came today because I love you. Because I never stopped loving you. The inheritance has nothing to do with it. How can I believe that? How can I believe anything you say when everyone in my life has been lying to me? I never lied to you. You kept a massive secret. That's the same thing. I was protecting you. From what? The truth. My own identity. The rage was pouring out of me now, hot and unstoppable. You don't get to decide what I can handle, Damon. You don't get to play God with my life. Someone had to protect you, and clearly you weren't going to do it yourself. The words hung in the air between us, sharp and unforgivable. Damon's face went pale. Naomi, I didn't mean that. Get out. What? Get out of this room. I need to think. I need to breathe. I need you to not be here right now. We need to talk about this. We just did. And I'm done talking. So either you leave or I do. For a second, I thought he was going to argue. I could see it in his eyes, the urge to fight, to convince, to control the situation the way he controlled everything else in his life. But then something shifted. He nodded once, sharply, and walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the handle. Harrison Carlisle was my mentor, he said without turning around. He found me when I was 22 years old with nothing but an idea and a laptop. He gave me my first investment. He taught me everything I know about business, about integrity, about building something that matters. And on his deathbed, he made me promise something. I didn't want to hear this, but I couldn't move. He made me promise to find his daughter. To protect her. To make sure that when she inherited everything he'd built, she'd be ready for it. That she'd have someone in her corner who understood that world and could help her navigate it. Damon finally turned to look at me. So yes, I've been watching over you. Yes, I've been protecting you. And yes, part of that was because I made a promise to a dying man who saved my life. But I fell in love with you before I knew who you were. 5 years before I found that file. And that part, the loving you part, that had nothing to do with money or promises or obligations. That was just you, being exactly who you are. He opened the door. I'll give you space, but I'm not leaving this house. Not while Cecily is still out there. Not while you're in danger. Then he was gone. I stood in that office surrounded by evidence of a life I never knew existed, and I started laughing. Horrible, broken, slightly hysterical laughter that turned into crying halfway through. My groom walked out on me. A billionaire crashed my wedding. I'm secretly an heiress. My whole identity is a lie. And somehow I'm supposed to just process all of this like it's normal. Have you ever had a day where literally everything you thought you knew turned out to be wrong? Drop a comment, hit that like button, because I need to know I'm not alone in this absolute chaos. I don't know how long I stayed in that office. Long enough for the sun to finish setting. Long enough for Miranda to knock quietly and tell me she'd prepared dinner if I wanted it. Long enough for my phone to die from the 100 missed calls and messages I never answered. Finally, when the room was dark and my tears had dried into tight tracks on my face, I left. The house was quiet. I could see lights on in distant rooms, but no one appeared. Damon was giving me space like he promised. I found my way to the room Miranda had prepared. It was beautiful. Ocean view, king bed with 1,000 thread count sheets. A bathroom bigger than my apartment's living room. The clothes she'd left out fit perfectly. Soft pants and a cashmere sweater that felt like clouds. I should have been grateful. Should have been overwhelmed by the luxury. Instead, I felt hollow. I walked to the window and looked out at the ocean. The moon was rising, painting everything silver. $3 billion. The number kept circling in my head like a vulture. I'd spent my whole life worrying about rent, about student loans, about whether I could afford to fix my car when it broke down. And the whole time, there was this ticking clock counting down to the day I'd never have to worry about money again. Did my father know? Gordon Reed, the man who raised me, did he know this was coming? Of course he knew. He had to know. Another lie. Another secret. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass. A soft knock made me turn. It was Miranda, carrying a tray. I thought you might want some tea, she said gently. And maybe something to eat. You haven't had anything all day. I'm not hungry. You should try anyway. It's been quite a day. That's the understatement of the century. She set the tray down on the small table by the window and gave me a look that was equal parts sympathy and steel. For what it's worth, she said, I've worked for Mr. Blackwell for 8 years. I've seen him ruthless in business, cold to competitors, absolutely merciless when necessary. But I've never seen him the way he is with you. What do you mean? Vulnerable, she said simply. Like he's afraid of losing something that actually matters. She left before I could respond. I looked at the tea, at the small plate of food, at the care someone had taken, and I realized something. I'd spent 8 months with Trevor, and he never once brought me tea when I was upset. Never noticed when I needed comfort. Never saw me as anything more than a role to play in his con. But Damon had spent 5 years watching over me from a distance, making sure I was safe, even when he thought I'd betrayed him. That had to mean something, didn't it? I drank the tea, ate a little bit of food, tried to organize my thoughts into something coherent. But exhaustion won. The adrenaline crash from the day's insanity hit me all at once, and suddenly I could barely keep my eyes open. I climbed into that enormous bed still wearing Miranda's borrowed clothes and fell asleep the second my head hit the pillow. I dreamed about my father. Not Gordon Reed. Harrison Carlyle. A man I never knew. A man whose blood ran through my veins. A man who'd built an empire and then left it to me. In the dream, he was sitting across from me at a coffee shop, smiling. "You're going to be magnificent, little one," he said. And I woke up crying. The room was dark. The middle of the night. I checked the clock on the nightstand. 3:17 a.m. My phone was plugged in, charged. I must have done that on autopilot before falling asleep. I turned it on. 63 missed calls. 42 text messages. 7 voicemails. Most from my mom. Some from Paige. A few from numbers I didn't recognize. I was about to put the phone down when a new message came through. From a number not in my contacts. Just 3 words that made my blood run cold. "We have him." Then a photo loaded. It was my father, Gordon Reed, tied to a chair in what looked like a basement or warehouse. His face bruised, his eyes terrified, and standing behind him, smiling at the camera, was Trevor. I screamed. Within seconds, my door burst open. Damon, shirtless, weapon in hand, eyes wild. What happened? I couldn't speak. Just showed him the phone. His face went from concern to absolutely murderous in half a second. He grabbed his own phone, started barking orders at someone. Then another call. Then another. "That photo was sent 4 minutes ago," he said. "We can trace it. Find the location." "They have my dad," I whispered. "Oh God, they have my dad. We'll get him back." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Because I have resources they can't imagine, and I will burn down everything they love to get him back safely." Another message came through. "If you want him alive, come alone. You have 2 hours. Address follows." Then a location in a part of town I'd never heard of. Damon was already dialing. "I need a tactical team at these coordinates in 90 minutes. Full gear." "I want." "No," I said. He stopped mid-sentence. "They said alone. If you send an army, they'll kill him." "Naomi, you can't seriously be considering going there by yourself. He's my father. And walking into a trap gets him killed and you kidnapped. Use your head." "I am using my head. And my head is telling me that my dad is in danger because of me, because of this inheritance, because somehow my entire existence has put everyone I love at risk." My voice broke on the last word. Damon lowered the phone. "We'll figure this out," he said quietly. "But we do it smart. We do it careful. And we do it together." I wanted to argue. Wanted to grab my keys and drive to that address alone and trade myself for my father. But I also knew Damon was right. So I nodded. "What do we do?" He looked at me with eyes that promised violence to anyone who threatened me. "We get your father back. And then we make sure Cecily Hawthorne and Trevor Sutton regret the day they ever heard your name." If you're still watching, if you're invested in what happens next, subscribe right now. Share this with everyone you know. Drop a comment telling me what you do in this situation. Because this story is about to get so much darker before it gets better. And somewhere out there in the night, my father was waiting for a rescue that might come too late. Within 15 minutes, Damon's office had transformed into a military command center. Computer screens glowed with maps, satellite imagery, and data streams I couldn't begin to understand. 3 men in tactical gear stood around the desk, speaking in low, clipped voices about extraction points and backup routes. I sat in the corner, still in borrowed clothes, watching Damon orchestrate a rescue mission like he'd done it 1,000 times before. Maybe he had. The location they sent is an abandoned textile factory on the south side, one of the tactical guys said. Building's been empty for 3 years. Multiple entry points, but also multiple places for an ambush. How many hostiles are we expecting? Damon's voice was cold, controlled, unknown. Could be just Sutton and Hawthorne. Could be hired muscle. We should prepare for worst case. Do it. Damon glanced at me, and for just a second, the cold mask slipped. I saw fear there. Not for himself. For me. Another screen lit up with a video feed. A man I didn't recognize appeared, older, professional, somewhere in what looked like a high-tech office. "Mr. Blackwell, I've accessed the traffic cameras near the factory. There are 3 vehicles on site. 2 SUVs and a van. The van arrived 40 minutes ago." "That's when they brought him in," I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. "My dad. That's when they brought him in." The photo was sent 4 minutes after I fell asleep, which means they wanted to make sure I'd see it when I woke up. They're playing a psychological game. Damon's eyes narrowed. What else? Trevor's a coward. We already know that. He walked out on a wedding because he got paid to, which means he doesn't have the stomach for real violence. This is Cecily's operation. Trevor's just the face she's using. One of the tactical guys nodded slowly. So the real threat is Hawthorne, not Sutton. Yes, I said. Trevor will fold the second things get dangerous. But Cecily, she's been planning this for years. She's not going to fold. Damon crossed the room to stand in front of me. When did you get so good at reading people? When I realized everyone in my life had been lying to me, I snapped. You learn fast. He didn't flinch from my anger. Good. We're going to need that. Another message came through on my phone. Everyone went silent. I opened it. Tick-tock. Naomi, you have 90 minutes now. Come alone or daddy dies. Then another photo. This one showed my father more clearly. Blood on his shirt. His left eye swollen shut. But he was conscious, aware, terrified. Rage flooded through me so intense I actually shook. I'm going, I said. Not alone, Damon replied. They said alone. And you think they're going to let him go if you show up? You think Cecily orchestrated this entire thing just to make a trade and walk away? So what's your plan? Let my father die while we strategize? My plan is to get him out alive and make sure you don't become the next hostage. His voice rose for the first time. You're worth $3 billion. Naomi, you think this is about revenge? It's about money. It's always been about money. They get you in that building. They force you to sign documents transferring power of attorney, and then they kill both of you and disappear with your inheritance. The room went very quiet. Oh, I said softly. One of the tactical guys cleared his throat. He's right, Miss Reed. This is a kidnapping for ransom, just dressed up as something else. So what do we do? Damon looked at the screens, at the maps, at the men waiting for orders. Then he looked at me. We give them exactly what they want. You show up. Alone. Unarmed. Completely vulnerable. Are you insane? No. But they are if they think I'm going to let you walk in there without backup they can't see. He turned to the tactical team. How quickly can you get into position without being detected? The leader, a man with a scar across his jaw and eyes that had seen combat, checked his watch. With the right approach. 45 minutes. Do it. Set up a perimeter. Long-range optics. I want eyes on every window, every door, every possible exit. Miss Reed goes in wired for sound and video. The second we have confirmation of Gordon Reed's location and condition, we move. And if they search me, I asked, if they find the wire, then we move immediately, before they can hurt either of you. It wasn't a perfect plan. It wasn't even a good plan. But it was the only plan we had. Can I ask you something? I looked at Damon. Why are you doing this? Really doing this? My father isn't your responsibility. I'm not your responsibility. You could walk away right now and none of this would touch you. He stared at me for a long moment. 5 years ago, I let you walk away because I believed a lie. I let fear and doubt and my mother's manipulation convince me that you didn't want me. And I've regretted it every single day since. His voice dropped lower. I'm not making that mistake again. I'm not losing you to violence or greed or my own cowardice. So yes, I'm doing this. I'm going all in. And if that scares you, if that's too much, you can deal with it after we get your father back. Have you ever had someone go to war for you? Not just say they would, but actually put everything on the line. Tell me in the comments. And smash that subscribe button because you need to see how this ends. 20 minutes later, I was in the back of an SUV heading toward the south side of the city. Damon sat next to me, quiet and tense. The tactical team had left ahead of us to get into position. I wore a thin wire taped between my shoulder blades and a nearly invisible camera built into the button of my jacket. Both were so small I could barely feel them. Can you hear me? Damon said into his phone. A voice crackled back through a speaker. Loud and clear. Video feed is stable. Good. We drove in silence for a while. The city gave way to industrial areas, abandoned buildings, empty lots filled with trash and broken glass. Finally, I couldn't take the quiet anymore. What was he like? I asked. Harrison Carlyle. You said he was your mentor. Damon's expression softened slightly. Brilliant. Demanding. He saw potential in people that they didn't see in themselves. When I met him, I was arrogant and reckless and absolutely convinced I was going to change the world. What changed? He taught me that changing the world requires more than intelligence and ambition. It requires integrity. It requires caring about something bigger than yourself. Did he talk about me? All the time. Damon looked at me. He called you his greatest achievement. Not the companies, not the money, not the innovations. You. He used to say that bringing you into the world, even though it cost him your mother, was the only thing he'd ever done that truly mattered. Tears burned my eyes. Then why didn't he tell me himself? Why did he let me grow up thinking I was someone else? Because he was dying, and he knew it. Heart problems ran in his family. He'd already had 2 minor heart attacks by the time you were 5. He wanted you to have a normal childhood, a stable life, without the weight of his world crushing you. He planned to tell you everything when you turned 25. But he didn't make it that long. So he left me an inheritance and a guardian I never asked for. He left you a choice. Damon turned to face me fully. When you turn 30 next week, you can accept the inheritance and everything that comes with it. Or you can walk away. Decline it all. Live your life however you want. The trust is structured to give you that option. I could give it all up. Every penny. Would you? I challenged. If you were me, would you walk away from $3 billion? He considered the question seriously. No. But not because of the money. Because of the responsibility. Harrison built something meaningful. Something that employed thousands of people, that funded research and education and change. Walking away from that isn't just about rejecting wealth. It's about rejecting the chance to do something that matters with your life. And you think I'm capable of that? I think you're capable of anything you decide to do. The SUV slowed. We were close now. Damon grabbed my hand. When you get in there, stay calm. Keep them talking. The longer they talk, the more time my team has to position for the extraction. What if something goes wrong? Nothing's going to go wrong. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise that I will burn that building to the ground before I let them hurt you. The vehicle stopped a block away from the factory. This is as close as we can get without being spotted, the driver said. I looked out the window at the looming structure in the distance. Broken windows. Graffiti-covered walls. The perfect place for something terrible to happen. My phone buzzed. Another message. We see you. Get out of the car. Walk to the north entrance. Alone. No phones. No weapons. No tricks. They're watching, I said. Damon's jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle jump. Go. We'll be right behind you. You won't see us, but we're there. I started to open the door, but his hand tightened on mine. Naomi. I looked back. Come back to me, he said. Then he let go. I stepped out of the SUV into the cold night air. The door closed behind me. The vehicle pulled away, leaving me standing alone on an empty street under broken streetlights. I started walking toward the factory. Every step felt surreal. Like I was watching myself in a movie. Like this couldn't possibly be my life. 24 hours ago, I was getting ready for my wedding. Now I was walking into a hostage situation to save my father from people who wanted to steal my secret inheritance. The absurdity would have been funny if I wasn't so terrified. The north entrance loomed ahead. A metal door, partially open, spilling sickly yellow light onto the cracked pavement. I could run. Could turn around right now and get back in that SUV and let Damon's team handle this. But that was my father in there. The man who raised me. Who taught me to ride a bike and helped me with homework and walked me through every heartbreak I'd ever had. Biology didn't make him my father. Love did. So I kept walking. I reached the door and pushed it open wider. Inside was a large empty space that used to be a factory floor. Old machinery sat rusting in corners. The air smelled like mold and oil and fear. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair exactly like in the photo, was my father. Daddy, I breathed. His head jerked up. His good eye went wide with horror. Naomi. No. You shouldn't have come. You need to run. Footsteps echoed from somewhere in the shadows. Then Trevor stepped into the light, holding a gun that looked far too big for his soft, banker hands. Hello. Naomi. Thanks for coming to the party. Behind him, elegant and cold in designer clothes that probably cost more than my car, Cecily Hawthorne smiled like a shark. We've been waiting for you. The door slammed shut behind me, and every light in the building went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Complete, absolute blackness that made me freeze in place, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. Don't move, Cecily's voice cut through the dark. Calm, controlled, like she'd planned this exact moment. A flashlight clicked on, the beam hitting me directly in the face. I squeezed my eyes shut against the sudden brightness. Hands grabbed me from behind. Rough, efficient, professional. Not Trevor. Someone else. Get off me. I twisted, trying to break free, but whoever had me knew what they were doing. Check her for weapons, Cecily ordered. And wires. Our little heiress is smarter than she looks. My stomach dropped. Hands patted me down, found the wire between my shoulder blades immediately. Ripped it off so hard I gasped. Got one. The voice was male, deep, unfamiliar. The camera too. In the button. Fingers tore at my jacket, popped the button off completely. Well. Cecily walked into the flashlight beam, her face partially illuminated, eyes glittering with satisfaction. Did you really think we wouldn't expect Damon Blackwell to try something? We've been planning this for 3 years, sweetheart. Every contingency. Every possibility. Where's my father? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Alive. For now. Whether he stays that way depends entirely on how cooperative you decide to be. Another flashlight turned on, this one pointing at my dad. He looked worse in person than in the photos. Blood crusted on his temple. His wrists raw from the ropes. But his eyes were alert, furious, focused on me. Baby girl, you need to get out of here, he said. Whatever they want, don't give it to them. The man holding me shoved me forward into the open space. I stumbled but caught myself. Trevor moved into the light, still holding that gun like it might bite him. He wouldn't meet my eyes. What's wrong, Trevor? I kept my voice hard. Having trouble looking at the woman you pretended to love? The woman you were paid to destroy? It wasn't personal, he muttered. You left me at the altar in front of 300 people. How is that not personal? It was just business. If you hadn't been so desperate, so pathetically grateful that someone like me would pay attention to someone like you, it wouldn't have worked so well. The words were designed to hurt. And they did. But I'd had enough of being made to feel small. Someone like you, I repeated. You mean a con artist who sells his dignity for $500,000? Yeah, I guess I should have aimed higher. Trevor's face flushed red. Shut up. Make me. He raised the gun, and for a second I thought he might actually shoot me. But Cecily laughed, a cold sound that echoed off the empty walls. I like her, she said. I can see why Damon's obsessed. She's got spine. Stupid, walking in here alone, but spine nonetheless. I didn't come here to chat, I said. You have my father. I'm here. What do you want? What I've always wanted. Cecily pulled out a tablet from her designer bag, the screen glowing blue in the darkness. For you to sign over power of attorney. For you to transfer all rights to the Carlisle estate to a trust one control. And for you to disappear quietly so I can finally take what should have been mine. Why should it have been yours? Because I earned it. Her composure cracked for just a second, rage bleeding through. I worked with Harrison Carlisle for 5 years. I built companies with him. I made him billions. And then he died and left everything to some daughter he never even raised? Some girl who didn't know he existed? That's not justice. That's sentiment. And sentiment is weakness. So this is about jealousy. This is about what I deserve. You deserve prison, I said flatly. Kidnapping, extortion, conspiracy. You're looking at 20 years minimum. Only if someone reports it. Cecily smiled. And dead people don't file police reports. My blood turned to ice. You're going to kill us. Eventually. But first, you're going to sign these documents. You're going to transfer everything. And you're going to do it because if you don't, I'm going to have Marcus here put a bullet in your father's knee. Then his other knee. Then we'll move to elbows. And we'll keep going until you cooperate or he bleeds out. Your choice. The man holding the flashlight on my dad, Marcus apparently, shifted his weight. I couldn't see his face, but his body language said he'd done this before. You have to know Damon won't let this stand, I said, stalling. You take his inheritance, kill me and my father, he'll hunt you to the ends of the earth. Damon Blackwell is many things, but he's not stupid. By the time he figures out what happened, I'll be in a country with no extradition treaty, living under a new identity, with $3 billion to keep me comfortable. She held out the tablet. Sign. Now. And if I do, you'll let my father go? Cecily tilted her head like I was a particularly slow child. Of course not. But I'll kill him quickly instead of slowly. That's the best offer you're going to get. My father made a sound, half rage, half desperation. Naomi, don't you dare. Don't you sign a damn thing. Dad, I mean it. He struggled against the ropes. I've lived a good life. A full life. I got to raise you, watch you grow into an incredible woman. If it ends here, I'm at peace with that. But you don't give these bastards a single thing. You hear me? Tears burned my eyes. How touching, Cecily said. Marcus, shoot him in the leg. Wait. I lurched forward. Wait. I'll sign. Just don't hurt him. Naomi, no. I'm not watching you die, Dad. I'm not. Cecily smiled in triumph and held out the tablet again. Smart girl. I reached for it, my hand shaking. And somewhere in the darkness, glass shattered. Everyone spun toward the sound. Trevor swung his flashlight wildly, the beam cutting through empty air. What was that? His voice pitched high with panic. Probably rats, Cecily said, but she didn't sound certain anymore. Marcus, check it out. The big man moved into the shadows, his flashlight beam sweeping. Another sound. Metal scraping on concrete. On the opposite side of the building. There's someone else in here, Trevor said. We need to leave. We need to go right now. Calm down. Cecily pulled out her own phone, turned on the flashlight. It's probably nothing. That's when the lights came back on. Not the overhead lights. Tactical lights. Blazing white spots that turned night into day, positioned at every entrance, every window, every possible angle. We were surrounded. A voice boomed through a speaker system, amplified and authoritative. This is private security acting on behalf of Gordon Reed. You are surrounded. Release the hostages and surrender immediately. Trevor actually yelped. Cecily spun in a circle, trying to see past the blinding lights, her composure finally cracking. How did they? Because you're not as smart as you think you are, I said. And Damon Blackwell doesn't leave anything to chance. Gunfire erupted from somewhere to my left. Marcus shooting blindly into the lights. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. I dropped to the ground, covering my head. More gunfire. Return fire now, precise and controlled, hitting the concrete near Marcus's feet. Warning shots. He dove for cover behind a piece of machinery. Trevor grabbed Cecily's arm. We have to go. There's too many of them. Let go of me. She shoved him away. That's when I saw my chance. I crawled across the floor toward my father while everyone was distracted by the chaos. Reached his chair. Started working at the ropes binding his wrists. Baby, you need to run, he whispered. Not without you. The knots were tight. Professional. I clawed at them desperately. A figure emerged from the shadows behind us, moving fast and silent. I spun, ready to fight. It was Damon. He had a knife in one hand and fury in his eyes. He cut through the ropes in 3 swift motions. Can you walk? He asked my father. I can run if I have to. Then do it. North exit. My team will cover you. What about Naomi? Damon looked at me. She's with me. More gunfire. Marcus was pinned down but still fighting. Trevor had disappeared completely, the coward. But Cecily was standing in the center of the chaos, tablet in hand, screaming into her phone. I need backup. The coordinates I sent you. Get here now. She had backup coming. We need to move, Damon said. Right now. He grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the nearest exit. His team materialized from the shadows, professionals in tactical gear, creating a protective corridor. We were almost to the door when Cecily's voice cut through everything. If I can't have it, no one can. I turned just in time to see her pull something from her bag. Small, black, with a blinking red light. Is that bomb? One of Damon's team shouted. Everybody out. Chaos turned into pandemonium. Damon literally picked me up and ran. I saw my father being half-carried by two tactical guys. Saw Marcus throwing down his weapon and sprinting for a different exit. Saw Cecily standing there with that device in her hand, her face twisted with rage and madness. The world exploded. The blast wave hit us as we cleared the door, throwing us forward onto the pavement outside. Heat and sound and pressure that felt like being hit by a car. I couldn't hear anything except ringing. Couldn't see anything except smoke and fire. Strong arms wrapped around me, Damon's body covering mine, protecting me from falling debris. When the ringing finally faded and I could breathe again, I pushed up to look. The factory was engulfed in flames. Fire pouring from windows, smoke billowing into the night sky. Dad, I croaked. Where's my dad? Click the image showing on your screen right now to watch part 2. More betrayals, more truth, more secrets are yet to be uncovered.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.